Previously on Hades Developing Hell.
Our fourth game is called Hades. It's a narrative-driven roguelike dungeon crawler in which you battle your way out of the underworld of Greek myth.
So the thing we are trying that's new this time around is like a little bit of a new art style, but also this thing called early access, which is super, super scary because it involves putting your unfinished work into the open for everyone to judge, something that artists are inherently incredibly uncomfortable with.
The gods are fickle. The gods favor.
It is April 23rd. I've been sick for approximately 2 weeks. I am today working on many things, including rendering out a bunch of the voiceover that we've been recording with a bunch of different actors. I myself have to record a bunch of voiceover, which we'll see how that goes as I'm under the weather. And I need to finish like 1.5 new pieces of music soon. The update is coming out May 7th, so we have exactly 2 weeks. And so of actual time that I can put stuff into the game, we maybe have like a week and a half.
No. Blast.
Only on, I guess, Pyre did I discover that Logic had the feature where you could like render a bunch of stuff at the same time. A bunch of individual things at the same time, so that's been really helpful since then. Otherwise, I used to do them one by one. I pick the takes during the recording process now, where I used to have to spend a bunch of time like selecting takes and comping stuff, and we just like pick the take during the thing, and then I have a friend of mine, Brad Hagman, who's worked on Pyre and this game, does all the VO editing for me, so he takes, based on what we declare is the winner take, he takes that take and cleans it up and puts it on this track that I call selects, and he edits it to the proper format, gets rid of stuff, he'll get rid of it or pick a different take if he has to. And then I can just put the effects on and render it like all at once, and it just saves such a bunch of time. I used to spend so much time doing that. There was construction happening below my apartment for basically the entire production of Transistor. So Logan and I had to like, okay, the hammering stopped, do a take. We're good to go here, let's see. Check, hey, I hear my voice. Okay, let me just, a little bit, down a little bit. I don't even remember what the last thing that was recorded in here was, I have no idea. Death area, so this is when I arrive back in the House of Hades after being killed by the bull. By the Minotaur. It's one bad bull. It's one bad bull. It's one bad bull. First take. H24. That was H23. H24. Oh, I got the horns. I got the horns. I got the horns. Oh, blasted ghost Minotaur. That's probably the one. Oh, Jesus. I'm also trying to get like this new piece of music that I've just started to a place where I can record some drums for it on Friday. So I need to have like the form decided and ready to go by then, because I record drums at home because I got an electronic drum set there. So right now I have like riffs that I think are cool. I need to like get better at so I can play them well enough to sound good. Because I'm trying to write like stuff that's like slightly beyond my normal comfort zone of stuff I like to play on guitar, you know? It's like I'm trying to go a little more metal than my, natural tendency for this Elysium stuff. In an emergency, I can fake that by like, doing it in pieces and editing it together, or slowing it down and recording it and then speeding it up. And I could do that if I have to, but I want to try and do it for real. Most of me checking out other types of music for inspiration and figuring out what the instrumentation is going to be like happens at the beginning of the project, more sort of broadly for the project as a whole, than from song to song. That's a big part of how I determine what a game is going to sound like, where I try to have the instrumentation choices represent some aspect of the world of the game. I ask myself at the beginning, what is the sound of this place? What are the instruments that might be played there? What does music sound like in this place? And that's going to be at least one component of the music that I'm making. I'm picking up from there. And I still need to do a mix and stuff on this, a proper mix. I've got all the stuff roughed out, but all the pieces have an intro section that's just like a synth pad essentially with some light percussion and like a little pulsing bass, like all the stuff that plays while you are actually doing a run and going room to room. And then there's like an acoustic folk instrument sort of version of the thing. And then there's the second part is like the same form again, essentially in like a intense, harder rocking version of it. So the harder rocking thing is basically that's pretty much done. I need to tweak the mix on it a little bit, but I have the acoustic part is not done and the mix on the rest is not done. So I can let me show you just a. So most of the pieces I'll start with the acoustic part first. This one I wanted to write it for that section because my goal was whatever this is, I want it to feel rad when you're fighting a minotaur. That's what I want. That's the goal of the piece because I know it's going to be, you're going to encounter it in that context. And that's a big part of the new biome. So that was my main focus writing this one. And with the next one as well. It's a little bit of a change of method, but it's been fun to sort of look at that part first and then extrapolate that back to like a broken down, less intense version of the thing.
It is April 25th, the second to last week of our update number 4 milestone, which means that in a week and 2 days, we will be releasing the Elysium update. It's the first week of polish, where the designers have actually handed off whatever changes they want to make, and the artists are now unleashed upon the world. So that we may make it more beautiful. What we have found is our particular schedule is actually the most useful for the art team and kind of the art team alone, because we come at the end of the entire pipeline. So anytime a scheduling change needs to be made, it's always kind of often on the shoulders and the heads of the artists to kind of make it work at the end, which is not to say that everyone is bullying us and that they are conscious that we do need real time to make good art. But it is basically a situation where we are constantly updating the schedule, constantly pivoting on the things that we think we're going to be doing because it changes daily. So just to make sure everyone's on the same page, make sure we are going to be able to ship everything we said we wanted to ship, in Elysium, I look at a bunch of cells on my monitor, and I try to make sure there are not like some weird dependencies that don't make sense, or some bottleneck, or something that we just shouldn't even be working on, given changing priorities. Yeah, so a good example of things that I'm watching out for are like, Josh has like a bunch of effects scheduled for Elysium enemies and the bosses that we have in there. That's predicated on both the animations being finished and of course the model being finished. So, you know, the whole dependency chain is like pretty strong there. So I just need to make sure Josh isn't preemptively scheduled for that kind of thing, or if he's just like going to have to wait too long to even get started such that he doesn't have time to do something that he considers good enough for early access. Yeah, so we have generally, pipeline-wise, we have generally worked as a design-led team. So often, if not always, the art team is waiting on design to create a prototype that they are happy with. That design then goes through a creative development phase, which is Greg. It's mostly Greg's work, and he like delves deep into his creative recesses. After that, it comes directly to me, or whoever is going to be working on the art, and we work together with Greg and design to iterate on whatever piece of work we're trying to make. So it's essentially a big problem-solving activity because we're trying to filter and negotiate the feedbacks between design, creative, and our own artistic impulses. But it's a fun and harrowing process, and what comes out the end when you take your time to really do that right is like a real sense of satisfaction that you found a cool creative solution that you wouldn't have originally thought of on your own. That being said, I will mention that in Elysium's case, one of the more frustrating parts of the experience is due to the nature of our early access schedule. Design has actually not really been running ahead of art as much as we'd like, so we actually had to do a lot of the concept before design had really finalized what they wanted. But it's a different world in early access, and it's hard to know what the right thing to do is, especially when so much of what you put in the first time it goes out is really just first pass. Being comfortable with that and knowing that you will have time later to continue iterating, that's one thing, but also you won't be able to iterate on 100% of things. So you can't really just go willy-nilly on everything you do, because that ends up being a lot of wasted time too, and we are a studio that does not like to waste time. How y'all doing? Great. Yeah. Yeah, we're doing so good. For the camera, I guess. So this is our meeting, our once every milestone meeting, in this case twice this milestone because we have an 8-week milestone, where we're just getting together, reviewing schedule, reviewing sanity checking, looking at dependencies, bottlenecks, and everything, and making sure everything is running well in the art world. In case anything is not running well, we will destroy whatever obstacles exist with our mighty artist pens. Okay, hey Josh.
Yo.
You made it, you're on camera. Usual and best case scenario is I design something and I make sure that it looks good in isometric. So the first concept that is the proof of concept really is the isometric drawing of the enemy or character. From there, if that seems to check out with everyone on design and creative and art side, we move forward and I create orthogonals, which is just like the front, the back, the side, and like call outs to whatever details may seem confusing or may not make a lot of sense in the isometric. I have to problem solve around like how do the joints work on this like pauldron and how does it actually attach. And then from there, Paige just takes it and she makes magic and turns it into a 3D thing that you can look at, which is awesome. In more recent times, because of the early access process, I haven't had the luxury of creating all the orthogonals, so I have really just been sending her the isometric versions of the concept and then like really rough proportion sketches and any call-outs for any part that may seem like extra confusing. So she's been working with that, and no matter what I give her, like I said, she produces gold. So I guess maybe that's just telling me that I should stop creating orthogonals, but I feel like it's my job, and I feel like I'm shirking it if I don't do it. I don't know, it's an industry standard. So in Joanne's case, she has come in and really just like taken over a lot of the duties of map creation, including concept phase.
I'm not sure if this is true, but I think maybe some people think that the maps are computer generated. They're not. Everything is hand placed with love and care, very purposefully for composition, lighting, color. I created a bunch of mossy assets, crystals, structures, rocks, grass, the best things.
So we basically decide what are the high level details of this particular area. What's the general tone of this area? What's the general palette that we're looking for? And what is the fictional conceit for this area? So she's provided with all of that from myself and Greg. And then she goes and plays and has fun doing concepts and drawing things. And then I just over the shoulder, I'm like, yes, no, yes, yes, yes. From nothing to concept, it takes about 4 weeks. After that, she has the go-ahead to start beautifying maps in a rough manner. So she will do a prototype of a map, and we can take a look at what the translation of the concept into real map actually looks like. There's a little bit of course correction that happens there. The 2 weeks before the update goes out are the 2 weeks where the most art is changed and the most polish is put into the game. Literally on Friday night at 5 p.m., like the whole game feels like it changes. You know, we ship the update the Tuesday after that, and it's like, there's just not enough time for me to sit down and play with the game and like take it all in and think about like the larger pictures until a little bit after that. So I'm actually in the process of doing that right now. All right, so my main concentration this time around is Elysium, of course. I'm playing just to review a lot of Joanne's work in bulk. A lot of the enemies actually have also just started coming online. We had actually a little bit of a crisis earlier in the week. We had a playtest on Monday, which was 3 days ago, and one of the main enemies in the playtest is this guy that we called internally the Shade, and he's this, you know, heroic warrior who got sent to Elysium. But the thing I forgot, or I didn't concentrate hard enough on when I conceptualized him, was that he needs to be visible. So we had a little bit of a crisis where the Shade himself, like, he was all black. In fact, let me bring him up so you can see the concept, see what I'm talking about. So yeah, as you can see, he is a dark, shadowy figure. A dark, shadowy, Greekish figure. And he was actually concepted before anything in Elysium had actually become concrete as far as the environment was concerned. So, you know, my attempts to predict visibility issues were like, let's give them these like really bright magenta and blue tones so that they pop out from the background. As it turns out, Elysium is a lot of blue and a lot of black because we're using a lot of black in our game in general. It's still supposed to be kind of this shadowy, cavernous place. So what happened is this character or this enemy just basically got lost. There was the nuclear option of completely inverting this guy's color, turning him white in case we couldn't find some other solution. But as it turns out, you know, with a little bit of post-processing, which is a thing we do on all of our enemies, and a bit of a texture update, which to better reflect what was concepted here, it seems like it's going to be okay. We'll know in a week's time if it is truly okay, but I think this is going to be my first time looking at the Shade in the game with his updated textures that are in theory better and more visible. So let's find out. He's got this thing where when you kill him, his little soul pops out and it can go back and possess this weapon right here and become a real boy again. We are also having similar problems with the little soul, which we call the naked shade, being visible and trackable during combat, since it's such an important part of ending combat. I don't know if we've solved those issues yet, but I think these guys are pretty good. Like previously, I remember playing in this corner and it just being like completely illegible. The character looked too similar to his effects. He looked too similar to the background. But he's got this spotlight under his feet now, which was another one of our attempts to make him super visible. I think he's sitting in a pretty safe place right now. He's not the most visible, but he's also not the most untasteful. And that's what's key. That, in a nutshell, is how art and design works together.
Okay. So I've got a riff that I like, that I've been trying to get better at playing, that I want to have be the basis for this new piece. I was exploring it more last night. I think I've got a structure in mind. I just need to sort of track a scratch guitar track, lay that down, and then I will play drums to that, and have the structure of the piece all fleshed out, before I do the drums. And then I'll just do a billion takes of drums and comp together a good take and edit that, and that's the plan. Yep. This is a weird guitar. There's like certain sounds that work really well for other guitars I have sound really terrible for this guitar. It's just like super muddy for some reason. But it can sound really heavy if I find the right thing. Is it metal? It's not metal. It's rockin', but it's not metal. Doesn't sound like it belongs in hell. Can always tweak it. But I like to start from can always tweak the sounds, but I like to, there's so many presets on here that are really spectacular that it's actually just more practical to like pick a really close preset and then tweak as needed. Just because there's just so many options that like one of them is going to be pretty close to what I'm looking for. So yeah, I mean I've got a couple that are pretty close, but I'm trying to see if I can get closer. And then this is like a rat pedal equivalent, This is a flanger pedal, but you've got all these pedals over here and all these different types of distortion, fuzz. Visually, you can tell kind of what pedal they're actually modeled after. Like this is like a Memory Man delay, and it's really easy to navigate. Plug in my drums and get going here. The idea is, the drums I have in there now are just to like give me the sort of the feel of the thing. It's just easier to play to that for me than a click. So I have this sort of like temp drum track that I'm going to replace with like a real drum track, and I'm gonna have there be sections that are where I play different stuff and add some live energy into the piece, basically. So the way I've been doing it for Hades is I'll perform a drum part on my electronic kit, and record the MIDI output of that essentially into Logic and use the Logic drum sounds. And then I can sort of put together a perfect performance from a bunch of takes and sort of edit it as I see fit. But for a while, you'll see me sucking and scrambling or just trying to figure out like what the parts are, and the first like 10 takes are usually garbage, and then and then I start to figure out, okay, cool, this part should be like this, and so yeah, that's the idea. Might be close enough for me to start editing. Yeah, I didn't nail everything, but got some good enough ideas in there, I think, that I can at least start the editing process. So good. During the less intense section of the pieces, we have a system set up in the game where I can play any combination, essentially, of drums, bass, and guitar. And so I need to have something happening on the percussion track at all times. But in the intense sections, we actually have all the stems active 100% of the time. It's in the intense section. So I don't really need to keep the drums going the whole time, actually. So it probably would be better to have some dynamic breaks in there. So I will probably keep that part, actually. It's a bit of a workout. Oh, jeez. I wish I had more time to just play drums. It's really fun. It's more fun than doing exercise.
Yeah, my name is Camilo Vanegas. I'm the 3D artist and animator at Supergiant Games. I joined the company in 2012, and I was the only solo 3D artist and animator in the company for a long time. Yeah. Transistor was a project that was my first project, so it was like basically a big learning point for me about working in games, about production, about pipeline, about what it's like when people actually react to your work, so many people in the video game community. But I do have my heart is with Pyre, because it sort of was the point where like I was feeling more confident about my work, and when I actually got to express more of like the design and the aesthetics that I love. So definitely Pyre is the one that I can like treasure the most in that sense. And then this new project for me, Hades has been different because now I have more people working with me. So we have Paige and then contractors to help me with some of the work. So it was like a little bit like 50% of my time was just trying to manage that work, and also the other part was continuing animating the project.
His perspective has been invaluable in the work that we've done to this point, and I'll be really excited to see what he comes up with next, because I think he's a genius animator. One animator has done everything in our games since Transistor, and he 3D models all that stuff too. So yeah, he's been a one-stop shop.
I feel like I got very lucky. not only is a place that they care a lot about the people, but also that you get to learn a lot. And I got super lucky with having like people like Amir and Jen, that they were like the really good leaders. And then they kind of gave me the space to grow a lot. It's something that I'm gonna always be grateful. To me, I'm always gonna be here for the company. It's already part of who I am, so that's not going away at all. Yeah.
So when it comes time for me to like create a character or a concept, you know, the very first line of defense is first consulting Greg, our story guy, creative director, to make sure I'm gonna be taking into account like all the factors that he wants, so that he can tell the right kind of story using this character. The second step is to just go to good old google.com. In the case of Theseus, it's like, I'd like to know how he was written and how he was drawn on like ancient Greek pottery. Like that kind of thing is more interesting to me. Even if none of it actually ends up manifesting itself in my final concept, it's still really important, I think, to acknowledge, you know, what was the actual root of this character. There is a certain like community mindshare concept of the character that can't be completely avoided either. So the Minotaur is a really good example. When I did my initial research on him, you know, in general, when he's depicted, he's actually like all man except for his Minotaur head. That was one of the decisions I had to make. Like, do I give this guy hooves or do I give him feet? Because is it weird for him to have feet now for most of our players? Like, will they understand that this is a Minotaur? I also need to take into account how the character is going to move and how they're going to interact with the world around them. So those kind of considerations are more for, you know, I probably can't have a crazy projection on a shoulder pad because he needs to lift his arm really high. I can't give him big floppy shoes because it'd be really hard to animate something like that, or it won't read well in isometric.
We don't have a lot of the art team and I don't have a lot of direct collaboration, but I definitely am always looking at the stuff that the art team is making and looking at the concepts and looking at the sort of backgrounds for the new biome, or looking at you know, what the enemies look like and all that stuff, and I'm trying to incorporate that stuff into the tone of what I'm doing.
I like asking Greg a lot of weird questions, like, what kind of food does Thanatos like? Does Patroclus like stay up late at night, or is he kind of like a morning person? Like weird things like that can like actually be really useful. I kind of even interface evenly with like engineers and designers also, because you know, anytime an artist wants something particular to happen to this one piece of art in this one moment, usually we can't get that done by ourselves. So we just need to put in like a feature request, and that sometimes goes to the engineer, and sometimes we have to make sure it doesn't interfere with like the design and gameplay. I guess that's just my way of saying I kind of talk to everyone.
Today I put together the structure and the parts for this new piece for the new biome. I recorded like a basic guitar track and then tracked drums to that, and then edited those drums and made a proper drum track. And we're like a week and a half out from the update. I have a lot to do between now and then because we can't put stuff in that whole time. So I have to do a bunch of sound effects. That's sort of my main stuff that I have left. All the voiceover is done. The first piece of music is done. This piece of music is started. Probably won't launch the day of the update, but maybe I can patch it in like a couple of days later. That's what I'm thinking. So we'll see. I'd like to launch it with the update, but I just have to, you know, everything needs sounds. So I have to do that first. So that's the plan.
So I think it's really interesting working on something in early access, and it's super different. I think having people know what we're working on and having it all out there really changes the vibe because we get to see sort of people's reaction to the stuff that exists already in the game in sort of real time, basically, as soon as we release it. So it's been really cool and maybe added like a slightly different type of pressure to see that stuff in action and to see people's reaction in real time. You know, sort of shutting yourself away for 3 years and working on something that no one's gonna, you don't know if people will like it or not until the end of that period. I think having some indications that maybe we're on the right track here is sort of comforting after only a year, a little bit more than a year of working on the game. We got to sort of have that reaction from people, which is really exciting and invigorating. And yes, the sort of update cadence is grueling sometimes, and having to keep putting out new stuff on a regular basis that people get to experience. But I think it also is exhilarating, at least as much as it is grueling.
It's downloading. Man, it's happening.
Have you picked up on it?
I don't know, but I am doing the update myself right now from Epic. Yeah, this is an update day dim sum feast, which we've done a couple of updates, and I think we should keep it going because it's my favorite kind of feast.
This is Szechuan chicken. Szechuan chicken is quite good.
Like, I want to believe we're going to make it super far and everything, but I'm also...
Wow.
Hold, fiend! You'll walk not one more step toward the light of day, so long as I am here.
2 against 1. Seems hardly fair. Ah, well. Let's kill him and be done, King.
Theseus, the Bull of Minos, you two are legends. I'd be honored if we had a sporting contest here.
Ah, a naked attempt to sway me from my convictions. Defend yourself, you blackguard, and may the gods show you some mercy, for I shall not. Well, Hellspawn, not ready to admit defeat as yet.
Our latest update just went live. It is the Beefy update. Includes a lot of new content. Biome number 3, Elysium, the next level of hell or heaven, depending on how you want to think about it. And also new bosses, new mini bosses, new enemies. It was a really exciting milestone, I think, because we had the chance to slow down the pace of our early access updates from like a 4-week cadence to an 8-week cadence. We were finding the 4-week cadence, though they worked, they definitely presented a different kind of challenge as far as feeling like you were trying to ship something like real good every month. That is a tiring process. It's like releasing a game every month. So we tried out the 8-week cycle, and I thought it was really cool. Actually went on vacation for 2 weeks of it, which was also nice. But it was, yeah, it's out now. It's out as of 1 hour ago, and people are playing it, and that's really cool. Saw like a couple people get to experience Theseus and the Minotaur, and someone noticed the Minotaur's hair, so I was happy with that. Yeah.